Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto and Soul Eater crossover, part 1. Subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. Arizona Desert Death City. Night has fallen over the city of death, the stars shining in the night sky. A meister that lives in the city, Maka Alburn, sat on the roof of her building as she watched the sky. She watched as the stars slowly rolled by. She wondered how her mother was doing on her travels. She saw something out in the distance, a red star that shined a bit brighter than the others. She watched as it grew brighter before slowly dropping, as if it were a shooting star. She watched as it fell, the red star glowing brighter as it grew closer to Earth until it crashed a mile or two outside the city. Little did she know, others around the city saw the same thing. BWMA Death Room. A strange figure watched the crash from his mirrors, his face covered in a cartoonish mask, the figure itself looking like a mass of black spikes. He thought, my, it seems a young man with great power entered this world, and his soul, it reeks of sorrow and despair, tempered with great emotional pain. I can only hope that this power will be an ally and not an enemy. I better get Stein on this. Wait, that's a terrible idea. He'll dissect first, ask questions later. Wait, it landed near his lab. This can't be good. BWMA nurse's office. The blonde-haired woman looked up from her research as she saw the red star fall, the papers having the words black blood written in several places. She looked up, her yellow eyes gazing at the star, as she thought, such power, it's incredible, how can any being possibly have this type of wavelength? The only ones that could compare are the Kishin and the damn Reaper. She watched as it crashed into the ground, the red aura slowly dissipating, the glow similar to flames. She shivered as she felt her madness lessen, her mind clearing slightly. Her eyes widened as she realized this wavelength, it's the exact opposite of a Kishin's. Instead of spreading madness, it suppresses it. I must find whatever crashed out there. Death City Death's mansion. Death the kid, son of the Grim Reaper, looked out the window and saw a red star fall from the sky. He felt the power radiate from it and he thought, what on earth, it's almost like I'm watching father fall from the sky and it's going straight down. And the mountain range gives it perfect symmetry, it's beautiful. The two girls that sat in the room with him looked out the window, the taller one captivated by the sight while the younger simply stared. Death City Patchwork Laboratory. The man sat at his computer, typing away, the day's research being logged into the memory, when he heard a large crash outside. He got out of his chair, trying to figure out what just happened, showing it by turning the giant screw he had going through his head. He thought, an extremely large wavelength just crashed near my home, things can't be simple, can they? He passed a mirror on his way out, only to hear static, then the image of the Reaper appeared. The man turned to the mirror and said, Evening Lord Death, how may I help you? Death looked at the man and said, Stein, I'm sure you heard something crash outside your home, yes? The man, Stein, grinned and replied, loud and clear, if it was alive it's certainly dead by now. Death shook his head and said, Stein, whatever crashed is still alive and I want you to be very careful. This being, its soul shows great emotional distress and pain, I don't want you trying to dissect it to understand. Stein sighed and said, fine, I'll bring it to you once I find out what the hell it is. Stein reached the front door when he heard Death say, in one piece mind you, no experiments of any kind. Stein closed the door and the mirror showed static again before that too disappeared, showing a regular mirror. Death City Crash Site. The deep impact crater, around 16 yards wide and 6 feet deep, still had the red aura of flame surrounding the rim. If one were to look inside, one would see a 16-year-old boy wearing a red coat with black flames, a sword clutched in his hand. Around his eyes were red markings and, as they slowly opened, his eyes showed to be yellow with the pupils being horizontal rectangles. They slowly changed back to blue as he wondered how he got there. Flashback. Naruto Namikaze stared down the one man that nearly ruined his life, Sasuke Uzumaki. It was after the Fourth Great Ninja War where Madara Uzumaki's defeat ended the Akatsuki, all but one. Sasuke stared back, his eyes showing insanity as he said, you're gonna pay dope. Because of you, my revenge was never finished, because of you, I'm the last Uzumaki alive. But it doesn't matter, because everyone is dead. Those fools you called friends, I killed them. The village, rubble. But you just can't die, can you? Naruto silently seethed, his hand covered in a dark flame, a sword manifesting itself. It had a bat's wing for a blade, the bone acting as the edge, while the membrane acted as the blunt side. The guard didn't exist, just a blue eye like a jewel separated the blade and hilt. Naruto felt a flame appear in his other hand and he said, just shut up and die. Naruto charged forward, his blade slamming into Sasuke's kusanagi, the blade being the only thing preventing Sasuke from losing his head. Naruto pressed forward, making Sasuke slam into the base of Madara's statue. Sasuke smirked and said, what's wrong, dope? No stupid speech. No little bits about wanting me back in the village. Naruto glared at Sasuke, the blue of his eyes turned arctic as he said, no, not anymore. As far as I'm concerned, you're just another soon-to-be bloody smear on the ground. He charged a Rasengan near the Shadai's statue, while Sasuke charged a Chidori at the base of Madara's statue. Sasuke grinned and said, I see, one blow to end it all, too bad you have nothing left. Naruto said nothing, and by some silent signal, the duo charged each other, their final attacks clashing, as they did years ago. The colliding chakras caused waves in the air, and Naruto, seeing Sasuke pull on his Kusanagi, stabbed him in the chest with his sword, Soul Eater. Sasuke's eyes widened before they slowly glassed over, the chakras finally growing out of control, and Naruto fainted, drawn into the rift the two attacks created. Mindscape. Naruto walked the sewers of his mind, leading only to one place, the den of Kyuubi. The large fox looked down as he got within reach of its claws. He calmly sat down with his back turned and in a dead voice that made Kyuubi shiver, said, go on, I know you want to, you have for the past 16 years. Kyuubi looked down and said, what are you? The beast was cut off as Naruto yelled, kill me damn it. You've seen this world through my eyes, you've seen what happened. My friends, my loved ones, everyone is gone, at least I can make one person happy. Kyuubi looked down and with a roar, made Naruto fly from his seat and crash into a wall. Kyuubi said, I will do no such thing in Ninja. You're not even in the same world anymore. The chakras that lingered from your battle with the Uzumaki years ago and the chakra now have torn a rift in dimensions. This trip is one way and only one of us is reaching the other end. Naruto's eyes widened at the beast's words and said, does this mean, you'll, the Kyuubi nodded and said, yes, the trip through the portal is taking a massive toll on your body. The seal is working overtime to use my chakra to heal you, I can barely use enough to act as a shield to make your landing as survivable as possible. By the time you land, I will have no chakra left and will disappear, as will the seal once its job is finished. Your life in the elemental nations is over, but you can start anew and maybe find love again. If it's any consolation, kid, killing you wouldn't get you where your loved ones are, as suicide is a sin, even to us demons. I'm afraid this is a goodbye, kid, I hope to never see you again. Naruto nodded in understanding, smirked and said, I could say the same about you, fuzzball. Flashback end. Naruto opened his eyes and heard the footsteps of a man approaching. His nose cringed as the smell of cigarettes filled his nose. He heard, my, you're one strange sight. I wonder how you survived that. Naruto looked up and saw a man that wore a lab coat, had various stitches all over his body and clothes. He saw the man reach down and reacted. Stein arrived at the crash site and saw a young man lying in the middle and he thought, man, how the hell did this happen? He lit a cigarette and said, my, you're one strange sight, I wonder how you survived that. He reached down to pull the kid out of the crater when he had to jump back as a purplish fireball nearly collided with his face. He jumped back and saw the kid was slowly getting up, using his sword as a type of cane. Stein looked at him and asked, is that how you treat people that try to help? Naruto looked at the strange man and said, sorry, but I'm not exactly in a trusting mood. Naruto fainted, the stress of the trip finally got to him. Stein, hoping for no more fire, slowly picked up the boy to take him to the infirmary. The WMA nurse's office, early morning. Naruto opened his eyes and looked around and thought, white lights, check. White walls, check. White sheets, check. The smell of shit being way too clean to be natural, not exactly checked. I must be in some kind of hospital, yet not at the same time. He heard someone come in, and when they came into view, his thought stopped. He thought he was looking at an angel, as he saw a blonde woman in a lab coat, her hair tied in a small braid going down the front. She wore a black outfit under the coat, with what looked like two arrows acting as the belt. Her slightly pale skin made her eyes and hair stick out more, and he heard her say, my, I see you're awake. Dr. Stein brought you in some time ago, but I thought you would still be asleep. Naruto slowly looked around and asked, where exactly am I? The woman looked at him and said, you're in the infirmary, but, as for where exactly, you're in Death City. My name is Medusa, the nurse here. Naruto blushed and said, my name is Naruto Namikaze. You said this place was called Death City. Medusa nodded and said, yes, this place is run by the Grim Reaper himself. Naruto froze and said, did you say, the Grim Reaper? Medusa nodded, then saw his face freeze and his eyes looked cold and he said, well, if he wants to kill me, I won't have any complaints. Medusa gasped and said, you shouldn't talk like that, Naruto-kun, I mean, don't you have family and friends somewhere that might be wondering where you are? Naruto's head drooped and his hair covered his eyes from view and he said, my family was dead before I could know them, my friends were all killed before my eyes, I have nothing left. Medusa, compelled to do something, sat next to Naruto on the bed and pulled him into a hug. He blushed as he felt her body and neither noticed a man in a dark suit come in until they heard, "Hello Medusa, I came to pick up the." He froze at the sight and he said, "I see you two need a moment, I'll be right outside to take him to Lord Death." And with that, Spirit walked back outside, only to see Stein smoking another cigarette. Spirit shivered as Stein said, "That kid, one look at his soul, and he makes you think." Spirit looked at the slightly insane Meister and asked, "What do you mean?" "He seems a bit depressed, but," Stein rubbed his glasses on his shirt and took a puff of his cigarette and said, "That is something you'd need to talk to Lord Death about. All I know is, that kid must have suffered and I wouldn't wish it on anyone." Stein slowly walked away, leaving Spirit to think. Medusa felt Naruto's soul wavelength when she made contact and she felt peaceful. Her madness was slowly starting to melt away. She slowly let go of him and she said, "Naruto-kun, you need to go meet Lord Death, he won't kill you, though he may have some questions for you, that's all." Naruto blushed and asked, "Can I come see you afterwards?" Medusa smiled and said, "Are you asking me out, Naruto-kun?" Naruto's blush grew deeper and simply nodded. Medusa giggled and said, "Sure, I wouldn't mind showing you around town." Naruto hugged her and said, "Thanks Medusa-chan." She felt her cheeks heat up and Spirit gaped from his spot near the door. Stein chuckled at the sight of his old friend looking like a deer in the headlights. The last time he saw that was when Kami threw him out on his ass for cheating. He coughed to clear his throat, gaining their attention. He then said, "As much as I would hate to break up this little moment, senpai, you do need to take our young friend to Lord Death." Spirit broke out of his funk and nearly dragged Naruto out of the room, Medusa still feeling her cheeks, and Stein said, "I would be a bit careful Medusa, that boy's soul is filled with deep pain under the surface, the fact that he trusts you like that so quickly must mean something." Stein left the room, well Medusa thought, "I knew it, he's the one that crashed outside the city earlier, he was the one that suppressed my madness, I can't believe I held him in my arms, it felt so right." Death room. Naruto looked up slowly as he followed the man, Spirit, to where he was to meet the Grim Reaper and he thought, who the fuck thought to put so many guillotines overhead? If this was a school's principal's office, I would be scared shitless to come here. He looked forward and saw a large collection of mirrors on a small platform. He saw a rather large mirror in the center and he saw Spirit breathe on the mirror before writing something Naruto couldn't see before the mirror turned static like it was a television on the fritz. Naruto saw the Reaper and he heard, "Hey there, what's up?" in possibly the most cartoonish voice he ever heard. A large dust cloud was where he was standing and when it cleared, Death and Spirit saw Naruto face down and they wondered, what the hell? Spirit broke the silence by asking, "Why the hell are you on the floor like that?" Naruto slowly got up and said, "That's the Grim Reaper." "Are you kidding me? I saw the Reaper before and there's no way you could be him, he actually looked scary as shit, not something out of Disney's ripoff of a Tim Burton movie." Death chuckled and said, "So, you expected me to be scary, well, I better prove that I can be." Naruto looked on in shock as the massive spikes in the mirror turned dark and twisted, Death 800 years ago, and he heard Death chuckle, this time sounding darker, and he said, "So? What do you think now?" Naruto gulped and said, Yeah, what were we talking about before?" Death reverted back to his first form and said, "I understand if that frightened you, I had to change my look because I scared children. That was when I founded this school." Naruto sweat dropped and said, "So, this room is like the principal's office, right?" Death tilted his head and said, I guess you could say it is, why?" Naruto's face planted and mumbled a few curses before slowly getting up and he heard Death ask, "There was a strange sword found with you and you used a purple fire, care to tell us about that?" Naruto's eyes turned cold and he said, "Both the sword and the flame were a gift you could say. A man by the name of Itachi Uzumaki gave me a bit of his power, but I didn't exactly know what it was, that was until I saw my friends getting killed and my heart was clouded in hate. When my hate was at its peak, the purple fire was on my hand and it created the sword. Now I can use it whenever I wish. The flame itself was just a medium to create the blade, but I figured out a way to use it to fight." Spirit placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder and said, "Geez, that's quite a tale kid, but you can look on the bright side, here, you can start over, I know it may still hurt, but dwelling on it won't make it any better." Naruto nodded in understanding, while Death asked, "Okay, who are you, and what have you done with Spirit?" Spirit chuckled and said, "It's all me, I can be serious if I need to you know. You know I want to prove to Maka that I can be a good father and if given advice can help, then why not?" Death nodded while Naruto said, "This is all well and good, but I guess I'm joining this school, right?" Death nodded and said, "Yes, but with that sword of yours, we can't really list you as a Meister and you don't actually change into a weapon, so that option is out as well." Naruto had a confused look on his face and asked, what do you mean by weapons and meisters? Spirit answered, he means that the students of this school are filed under two classes. Weapons, like myself, are those that can turn into an actual weapon. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw Spirit change into a scythe. The shaft was pitch black, with a blade to match, the shaft taking the shape of a cross when it was without the blade. He then heard, as for meisters, a weapon can't fight by themselves, except for a few cases, and they need a meister to work with. Seeing as you have a weapon that's part of you, you can be filed under both. Naruto nodded and said, so let me get this straight, weapons are people that are able to turn into a weapon at will, and meisters are people who work with weapons in order to fight, right? Spirit shifted back to his human form and said, that's correct, my daughter Maka is a master, though I myself am a weapon. Naruto raised an eyebrow and asked, then wouldn't she have some weapon abilities? If being a weapon is like a bloodline, she should have at least some. Spirit shook his head and said, I wouldn't know, she never showed any. Death cleared his throat and said, well this is all well and good, there is the matter of where Naruto will be staying. Naruto narrowed his eyes and said, I don't recall giving my name. Death sighed and said, I saw how you acted with our nurse this morning. She doesn't know it either, but I can see what goes on through the mirrors, but that's all. I'm sorry if you think I invaded a private moment. Naruto shook his head and said, just don't do it too often, okay? Death nodded and Spirit said, well I need to get going, gotta cover Maka's class today, seeing as Sid is absent. Death nodded and said, good, take Naruto with you, it would be a good chance for him to get to know others. Naruto, how old are you? Naruto had a tick mark and said, I'm 16, why are most of the students 12 or something? Spirit gulped and said, Maka's a year or two under you actually, as are most of her friends, so you won't be around a bunch of kids. Naruto sighed and said, fine, might as well. The WMA Crescent classroom. Maka Alburn was busy reading the book in front of her, trying to not pay attention to what her partner was saying, as she was still ticked from what happened earlier, until she heard, hey Maka, did you hear the rumor? They say our old teacher Sid was found dead, he had a Statue of Liberty stabbed into his forehead. Maka scoffed and said, everyone knows about that soul. Soul shook his head and said, but you didn't hear that soon after, several students were attacked by someone that looked like Sid, and the worst thing, Maka stopped reading, as she was really focusing on what he was saying, until they saw a giant hole on his forehead. Fed up with his dumb behavior, she closed her book as she slowly said, Maka, chop. Soul was seen face down on the desk, the reason was Maka slamming her book down on his head. She was about to continue reading when she heard, damn, I've seen people busting ass while reading a book, but never using one to do it. Maka looked up and saw a blonde kid walking in with her father. Most of the girls in the class had hearts in their eyes, while Spirit walked in afterwards and said, alright, shut your mouths, class is starting. Maka looked down in horror as she saw her dad with a clipboard for roll, and he said, Singa's roll is a pain, I won't deal with it. Now let's get this straight, the bell doesn't decide when class ends, I do. Spirit looked up at where his daughter was sitting before Naruto slapped him in the back of the head. Maka and the others laughed and Naruto said, try failing at looking cool some other time, see, as I'm joining this class you might as well tell me where I'll be sitting. Spirit gave a small glare and said, you'll be sitting next to Maka, get that? Naruto nodded and moved to take his seat, ignoring the stares the girls were giving, as he thought, great, fangirls, I wonder if Sasuke felt like a piece of meat, now I see why he hated them. Naruto reached the row and said, hey there, you must be Maka, your dad has said a lot about you on the way over here. Maka sighed and said, sadly, but I don't treat that guy as my papa. Naruto sighed and said, I know, he told me of how he cheated and I kinda gave him a boot to his ass for that, I mean honestly, what a dumbass thing to do. Maka nodded and noticed that Soul and her dad were arguing when she heard, oh, that's right, Maka, Soul, you've been called to see Lord Death, Naruto, go with him, you're in this school now, so you'll be sticking with him. Naruto sighed and got out of his seat, letting Maka lead first when Soul asked, so, Naruto, you a meister or a weapon? They walked down the halls when Naruto said, it's hard to explain, but I'm guessing you're a weapon right? Soul nodded and grinned and said, yep, soon, I'm gonna be the coolest Death Scythe ever. Naruto raised an eyebrow and asked, Death Scythe? What the heck is that? I heard about weapons and meters, but not that. Maka cleared her throat and started to talk, as if to give a lecture, and said, a weapon can only become a Death Scythe when they have consumed 99 souls and one witch soul. Getting the 99 is the easy part, but the witch is hard, as finding them is easy, beating them is hard. If the weapon fails to eat a witch's soul after the 99th soul, all souls will be taken away and the pair must start over. Naruto snickered and said, you must know that because it happened to you, right? Both Soul and Maka said, don't ask, please. Naruto only thought, oh, it must have happened. Death room. Naruto watched as Maka opened the door and followed the duo inside, never noticing someone saying, it's Soul and Maka, let's show them what we can do. Tsubaki. The figure held a chain side and shouted out, rules of the assassin number 1. Conceal yourself in darkness, still your breath, and seek an opening to your target. Rules of the assassin number 2. Know your target, be able to guess his thought, his movements. Rules of the assassin number 3. Defeat your target before he becomes aware of your existence. Naruto looked up and saw a kid wearing a semi-black outfit holding a chain side and heard it say, Black Star, you just completely ruined any chance of surprising them. Naruto smirked and said, exactly, for someone who's an assassin, you suck at actually sneaking around. Black Star had a tick mark and jumped off the guillotine he was standing on, hoping to beat the new guy, when he felt his blade be stopped by the strangest sword he ever saw, and Naruto said, this is why I'm counted as both, this sword is a part of me, so I can be a weapon. While at the same time I'm using it, so I'm a Meister, best not to dwell on it. Black Star jumped away and said, you're a good kid, but it's my time to shine, right Tsubaki? The chain scythe glowed and shifted, turning into a girl with dark hair, set in a ponytail, while wearing a battle dress, with boots and arms warmers. He saw her wear what looked like stockings and thought, God, the chicks here are hot, shit, pervy sage got to me. Tsubaki saw his eyes and blushed as she thought, my, I didn't know that someone could look so, stop, bad Tsubaki, you don't know him so well yet, get to know him first, then you try to, bad. The group soon walked to Death's mirror and Soul said, so, who's gonna call him? Maka walked forward and said, I'll do it. She breathed on the mirror and made the call, soon enough, the Reaper was on the other end. Hello there, what's up? Good to see ya. So Naruto, are you settling in well? Naruto grinned and said, I certainly can't complain. Gotta love the sights. Tsubaki blushed, something that Maka noticed and even Soul noticed as he said, geez, you're acting like Maka's dad, man. Maka gave him a quick Maka chop to the head and said, why have we been called here Lord Death? Death cleared his throat and said, well, the reason is that there is something I need you for to take. They leaned in to hear it and Death said, extra lessons. The four of them face planted and Naruto started to laugh and Maka said, wait, you mean like the sort of thing stupid people take? Soul was more vocal and said, hell no, I'm gonna be the strongest Death side, there's no way in hell I'm gonna take any stupid extra lessons. Death looked at them with a blank face and asked, what is your duty as weapons and meisters? Maka cleared her throat and said, to gather 100 souls, 99 and 1 witch, in order to create a weapon fit for the Grim Reaper. Death clapped his hands and said, exactly, and, as of today, how many do you four have? They shrugged and they saw him hold up an 0 and he said, exactly 0. Soul and Maka found the ground very interesting, while Naruto and Black Star were laughing it up as Tsubaki kept saying, we're very sorry. Death looked at them and said, now then, on to the lesson, I'm sure some of you have heard the rumors. Naruto, seeing as you're new here, I'm sending you on this mission too, so listen up. Naruto nodded and Death said, as you may know, one of our teachers was killed recently and now reports of a zombie matching the man's description have been attacking students. Some have been found to be in serious condition. Apparently, he claims that he has been freed from the fear of death and is trying to get others to feel the same. The attacks are because there are those that get in his way. I don't know who it was that made Sid into a zombie or why, and that is what I need you to find out. Naruto listened in and knew Death was hiding something about this whole mess, but he couldn't figure it out. Black Star then said, I see, so we find these punks, beat them, and take their souls, right? Death said, yep, that's the basics of it. Though, there is one thing I need to mention. Everyone raised an eyebrow and he said, if you screw this up, I will have no choice but to expel you. Naruto had to hold his ribs at the sight of the four of them literally frozen, with Maka shouting, why-eyed. Hook Cemetery. Naruto followed the group to where Sid's grave was resting and Soul, being a bit irritated, said, hey zombie. Get your ass out here now. Naruto sighed and said, shouting out the fact we're here isn't gonna do any good, after all, he could get the drop on us instead of us getting the drop on him. Maka, who was in a depressed state, was against a tree, muttering about being expelled. Reminds of Kid, doesn't it? And they haven't even met yet. Tsubaki nodded and said, he's got a point, Soul, we need to be more quiet. Black Star, completely ignoring her words, said, hey Soul, wanna go piss on Sid's grave? Soul grinned and said, yeah, maybe we can take a dump on it too, that will show that damn zombie. Naruto was behind them and gave them a slap on the back of their heads. Tsubaki, hoping that someone was gonna stop them, had a sigh of relief. Naruto said, the hell are you two thinking? If that happened, you'd have bad luck. You should know it's wrong to mess with someone's grave. Maka felt the ground stir under her and a hand popped out of the ground and hoisted her by her leg. She had to use her hands to keep her skirt up. Sid, while having dark blue skin and a never-ending grin, wore what looked like jeans and a basketball shirt with the word zombies on the front. Sid asked, "Are you scared?" He lifted a pie cup and said, "You're scared." Soul charged forward mid-change, separating Sid from Maka, who managed to slide away. Naruto looked at the man and thought, shit, guess this is what a zombie is in this world. His hand was covered in purple fire, to Sid and Tsubaki's amazement, and saw the sword reveal itself. Naruto said, "Maka, Soul, I'd like you to properly meet my weapon, Soul Eater." Soul partly changed to human and said, "Hey Naruto, don't go ripping off my name, damn it." Naruto chuckled and said, "Sorry, that's just the name I heard it say when I first got it, don't mean to insult." Naruto stood in a ready stance, his left foot pointed out, his right foot in the back, Naruto holding the sword up in his right hand, while the left held purple fire. Riku's fight stance, Sid shook himself from his thoughts and said, "I doubt we've met, you must be a new student." Naruto grinned and said, "Just came in today, I never really got the chance to get a good workout." Sid chuckled and pulled his gravestone out of the ground and said, "Well, maybe that can be changed." He then swung the stone behind him as if it were a sword and said, "Maka, Soul, Black Star, Tsubaki, Naruto, good morning, hello, good night. I was never one to miss a greeting." Naruto rushed forward and said, "Well, I hope you got your fill, cause it's the last you'll ever say." He swung his blade down, making Sid jump back, a trail of fire, the only evidence the sword was swung at all. Black Star, not one to be outdone, said, "Forget this, I'm the one that's gonna get this zombie." Tsubaki was starstruck as Naruto moved around Sid's strikes and striking back with his sword, and when a hit connected, it passed right through and Naruto was right behind Sid. Naruto kicked him in the back towards Black Star and Maka and said, "Come on you two, get your head in the game here." Sid slowed his speed down using his gravestone and thought, shit, I know Maka and Black Star are tough on their own, but this new kid is on another level and I can tell he's holding back, but why? Is he letting Maka and Black Star take the credit for beating me? Must be, seeing as this is their assignment, not his. He focused his attention to Black Star, who was up in the air, and Sid slammed his gravestone into his chest, saying, "Check out the gravestone you're gonna get, the living end." As they impacted the ground, a cross made of light appeared over them, and Naruto saw Black Star on the ground. Maka thought, man, I know Sid was a knife master, but the fact he can do that without a demon weapon. We stars barely have a chance. She saw Naruto have a purple fireball in his hand, and Sid barely dodged it. Black Star slowly got up and trapped Sid on both sides. Sid barely was able to react to Black Star, giving him a kick to the solar plexus, and he was launched away. Black Star said, "Tsubaki, shuriken mode." Naruto watched as Tsubaki changed from her chain side to a giant shuriken, which Black Star used to try and catch Sid by his legs. Naruto thought, if this is anything like how Zabuza reacted, then he saw Sid jump over it and charge at Maka and had his gravestone raised over his head. Sid slammed it down, hoping to hit Maka, but when the dust cleared, she was nowhere to be found. Everyone heard an eep and saw Naruto holding Maka bridal style in a tree, and he said, "Well now, that was a close one, wasn't it?" Maka had the decency to blush when Soul said, "Shit, I didn't even see him move, just who is this guy?" Naruto grinned and said, "I'll tell you later, but right now, we need to end this guy, you got anything that can do that?" Maka nodded and said, "Yeah, can you give us a bit of time?" Naruto nodded and said, "Consider it done." Naruto set Maka down on the ground and vanished before they could say anything. The next thing they saw was Sid having his head leaning to the right, courtesy of Naruto's foot hitting it. Maka and Soul started to focus and they thought in unison, soul resonance. Everyone watching felt Maka's wavelength get stronger, and to Naruto's amazement, he saw the scythe blade be surrounded with what looked like chakra, and Maka said, "Scythe technique. Witch hunter." Naruto whistled and said, "Damn, it reminds me of the Rasen Shuriken." Maka swung the scythe, only to mess up on the turn, have the blade crash into the ground, and the resulting shock wave nearly hit Naruto and Black Star, both of whom had to jump out of the way. Naruto sweat dropped and thought, yep, just like the Rasen Shuriken, a pain in the ass to learn. Maka's Soul and Black Star started to argue, while Naruto watched as they turned on each other. He saw Tsubaki, even in her weapon form, begging for them to stop, and he thought, shit, it's Team 7 all over again. Maka, deciding to go the regular way, charged at Sid, only for him to sink into the ground, and Naruto thought, oh great, just like Kakashi, if I find out this guy is a perv I will, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. He tried to concentrate on the ground when he was interrupted by Sid slashing at Maka with a spike, causing the duo to go back to back. Naruto hid in the shadows, waiting in case they needed it. Black Star said, Tsubaki, Trap Star, let's go. Naruto watched as Tsubaki's chain spread out, forming a star on the ground, Maka only able to watch. Naruto thought, this kid got serious all of a sudden, I may grow to like this kid. Sid, thinking of getting rid of both, emerged from the ground next to them, and when he was poised for the kill, he found himself wrapped in Tsubaki's chains, and oddly enough, Maka was tied up along with him. She said, what the hell Black Star? Naruto laughed and said, damn, I really am starting to like you guys, I gotta say, that trap was genius. Black Star chuckled and said, thanks, I knew he was hiding, and it's thanks to his smell I was able to know when to spring the trap. Sid soon found himself still trapped in Tsubaki's chains, with Soul in his face asking, come on, tell us, who was the one that made you a zombie? Sid turned his head away and said, nope, no way, I was never a man to give up secrets. Black Star, getting an idea, pulled Tsubaki's skirt away, showing her panties. Black Star said, check it out. Sid started, and Naruto saw a touch of red on his cheeks, and he thought, he is a perv great. Naruto subtly looked at Tsubaki's panties and thought, can't blame him though, that side is perfect. Sid blurted out, it was Dr. Stein, he did it. Naruto sighed and stood in front of Tsubaki so she could fix her skirt, receiving a whispered thank you. Soul, not one to be outdone, tried to get info the same way by showing Maka's panties, but still got no response. In fact, Sid almost looked to be in pain and said, please, no more, I'll tell ya, he lives at Patchwork Laboratory. Black Star, Soul, and Sid each received a Maka chop to the head, the only reason Naruto wasn't hit was because he didn't look. Naruto sighed and said, thanks for not rearranging my brain cells. Maka blushed and said, well, unlike those pervs, you were smart enough not to look, so you at least get spared from the same treatment. Tsubaki finished fixing her skirt and said, honestly, why on earth did Black Star do that? Naruto sighed and said, that kind of interrogation isn't that odd. I knew someone who was good at what she did, and to be honest, she did not dress in what one would call modest. Maka looked surprised, but Naruto said, come on, we still got this lesson to finish right. Otherwise you guys may get expelled, and I like hanging around you guys too much to let that happen. Soul was cursing up a storm, saying, damn, that new kid is looking cooler than me. Patchwork Laboratory. Stein sat at his computer, slowly typing away, when he leaned back and said, the kiddies will be here soon, good, at least they may end my boredom. Death Room. Death was watching the events through his mirror as he thought, Naruto-kun is stronger than I thought. He also seems to get along with the others pretty well, that's a good sign. Maybe his time here at Shibuya will help him recover. His thoughts were broken as he heard his son, Death the Kid say, that Naruto is one impressive father, you say he's a new student. He looks like he's been doing this for a lot longer. Death turned to face his son and said, you're right, he does seem like he has, hasn't he? I wonder if he'll be able to take on the one who turned Sid into a zombie. Kid sat on the throne in the mirror and asked, by the way, who is he? This Dr. Frankenstein. Death looked at his son and said, he's one of the strongest masters to ever graduate from this academy. He is considered a genius, and for good reason. Kid stares impassively as he asked, Dr. Stein, he was one of the first partners for your current Death, Scythe wasn't he? Death nodded and Liz asked, but he's that strong, yet you sent them to fetch his soul, right? Isn't that risky? Addie, Liz's younger sister, giggled and said, but if it were sis, it would be easy right? Liz sweat dropped and said, I think you're overestimating me Patty. If I tried to take him on I'd be dead for sure. Kid scowled as he said, that's the theme for these extra lessons, isn't it? That's a bit harsh, don't you think? Death merely looked at the mirror, Kid standing by him as he said, there's no doubt about it, they'll die. Patchwork Laboratory. Naruto, Soul, Maka, Black Star, Tsubaki, and Sid, who was still wrapped in Tsubaki's chains, walked through the front gate. Soul took a quick look at the area and said, Stein is in here, isn't he? Black Star scoffed and said, let's just find him and finish this lesson quickly. Naruto nodded and said, I agree, this place just creeps me the hell out. Soul took another look and said, this training ground is a bit of a dump huh? Naruto shrugged and said, I've seen worse, maybe it looks this bad cause the guy trains here a lot. Maka wondered out loud, I wonder what kind of person this Dr. Stein is. Naruto noticed the door fling open and a clattering sound was heard and Soul said, sounds like something is coming out. Naruto sighed and said, guess we'll see what kind of person he is, won't we Maka? They saw someone riding a office chair backwards, but a wheel got caught on the bump in the door, making the chair fall, and the person hit his head. Naruto couldn't help but laugh, even as Stein said, shit, that didn't go so well. He picked up his chair, went back inside, and said, let's try this again. He did the same action, only to get the same results. Naruto had to hold his ribs, and Stein said, so, you kids got some business with me or something? Soul smirked and said, "You're Stein, aren't you? We've come to eat your soul." Stein slowly got up off the ground, brushing himself off as he said, "Ah yes, that's right. You wouldn't happen to be a student from, would you?" Stein looked and saw Naruto and said, "My, I see you're settling in well, maybe I'll get to see how strong you are conscious, won't I be Naruto-kun?" Naruto grinned and said, "Well I guess so, I'll kick your ass or my name ain't Naruto." He paused and shouted, "Damn you Karabi. You got me doing that shit now too." Tsubaki giggled and said, "It wasn't bad at least." Naruto chuckled and said, "Yeah, but the guy I got the habit from sucked at it, it would piss people off big time, cause he couldn't say a proper rhyme." His face palmed and said, "I gotta stop with that shit." Maka, ignoring what happened, said, "So, you're the one attacking Shibusan students, why? Do you have something against it?" Stein took his cigarette out of his mouth as he said, "Not much, my motives are very simple. Training, observation, and investigation. That was my original motive. Everything in this world can be used for training, and that includes myself as well." In the light, they could see Stein properly, as everything on him, his clothes, his chair, even parts of his body had stitches, giving him the appearance of being stitched together. Maka felt an odd feeling as she said, "Hey Soul, do you feel something strange?" Soul just shrugged. Stein looked at the pair intensely as he said, Your soul wavelengths aren't very synchronized. A serious person that tries hard with a twisted person that has a sarcastic soul. You're not working together so well." Maka and Soul looked shocked as Soul said, "You can see the souls of living humans. You must be a master." Maka then said, "And a high-level one if he can see our personalities." Soul looked at Maka and asked, "Maka, you can see everything too, right?" Maka, looking a bit nervous said, "Sure, of course I can." Stein grinned and said, "Oh really, your soul is wavering a bit. It's actually kinda cute." Maka moved her hands as if her chest was exposed and said, "Shut up, quit looking, you creep." Naruto sighed at their antics as he and the rest heard, shut up. Let's quit this boring conversation for commoners. Starting now, all advanced conversations will be about me." Maka and the others looked up and Maka said, "Since when exactly?" Naruto had a more crude question, "Okay, I wanna know how the fuck he got up there, I know he can't walk up walls. Better yet, how the hell did we not notice this guy doing it? I feel like the Anbu back when I painted the cage monument in broad daylight. Everyone had a WTF look on their face, though the moment was ruined, as Black Star said, "I don't care whether you can see souls or can't see them. Like I care about other people's souls. If I can see my own soul, I'm happy." Stein grinned and said, "You're cool, you have such a self-absorbed soul. I wonder, how on earth could anyone partner up with you? I doubt anyone could match up properly." Black Star jumped at Stein, trying to kick him in the head. Keyword trying, as Stein blocked the kick with his forearm while in the seat, the chair turning with the force of the kick, and Stein gave Black Star a punch to the face while the chair still moved. Naruto thought, "This guy reminds me of Kakashi a bit, being so laid back." Bolt Tsubaki looked at Black Star in worry. Stein looked over and said, "I see, you must be the Wild One's partner. You have such an accepting soul, always agreeing with the flow of things, it's easy to see how it could work." Stein smiled and said, Is there a feeling of attraction I'm seeing? I wonder, is it someone in the group?" Tsubaki blushed before Naruto stood in front of her and said, You love asking questions that don't need to be answered, don't ya? Besides, didn't your mama tell ya it's rude to stare at a lady when they don't want you to?" Stein took a look at Naruto's soul, and to the surprise of Maka, Soul, and Tsubaki, they saw a sad look on his face. Stein said, "It actually pains me to look at your soul. A feeling of loneliness, hate, and sorrow practically radiates from you. The darkness of despair from your past that rests within you is tempered with the light of hope for the future." Maka and Tsubaki looked at Naruto and to their surprise, saw his eyes change. Instead of the blue they usually saw, his eyes were yellow. He summoned Soul Eater and said, "Enough talk Stein, lest you forget, we have a lesson to finish." Stein smiled and said, "I guess you do. I do have enough data, so, shall we proceed with the practical portion?" Maka charged at Stein, Soul in his weapon form in hand, only for the strike to be dodged, and Maka received a kick to the side. Stein, using her as a springboard, rocketed back, only to hit Black Star in the face with the back of his head, all the while not getting out of his office chair. He then thought, who's missing, wait, where's his thoughts were broken, as he moved from under a helm breaker, Naruto's sword burning the ground it impacted with the dark fire. Naruto then raised his open hand and launched several fireballs at Stein, who, using his chair, moved out of the way, only for Maka to slash at him from behind, making him get out of the chair, or his head would be rolling. Naruto and Maka seem to work well together, he drives me into a corner and she attacks from the blind spot while I'm distracted. They are one hell of a team and they only just met. Stein brushed himself and said, Maka the scythe user, I wonder where I heard it before. Ah yes, I remember, your Spirit Senpai's daughter, the one he tries to impress. Soul, feeling left out, asked, Spirit. Maka scoffed and said that was his name before he became a death scythe. He thinks he'll look better if he's called that instead. Stein grinned and said, yes, you're his beloved daughter, the daughter of the woman who stole my best training ingredient. Naruto, feeling it click in place, said, wait, by training you mean, oh hell no, you did experiments on the guy. Stein merely grinned, which made Naruto think, screw Kakashi, this guy's is just like Orochimaru, I just pray he ain't into little boys. Stein adjusted his glasses and in what was the creepiest voice said, I just want to dissect you. Naruto felt a shiver go down his spine and he stood in front of Maka and said, as if creep, I won't let you make a single nick. Stein chuckled and said, my, such a chivalrous attitude. For such a dark soul, you seem to be quite attached to these guys, don't you? Naruto glared and thought, I knew death was up to something, he must have sent us here to make us learn something, as no leader in their right mind would do this, as an extra lesson. Naruto then said, you're right on one thing, I have a dark soul. In fact, back where I'm from he disappeared and Stein moved to avoid being cut in half, as Naruto said I'm the Kurosenin. Dark Sage. Tsubaki was staring, Sid too shocked to say anything. Stein, seeing Maka open, rushed her with a palm strike and Soul said, it's just a normal attack, block it. Maka raised her guard and Stein tried to strike the staff, only to be blocked by what looked like a honeycomb-style transparent shield, and to their shock, Naruto was the one using it with a hand raised. Stein's palm radiated with his wavelength, which Soul noticed. Naruto said, nah, I told you, not a single nick. He pushed his hand forward, forcing Stein back, only for Black Star to rush him with an elbow strike, Stein taking the hit to his back. Black Star shouted, you're not the only one who can use a soul wavelength directly, Black Star Big Bang Wave. Death Room. Vid watched in amazement as Stein's attack was blocked but still noticed the soul wavelength used in it. He said, wait, he used his own soul to attack. He doesn't need the aid of a weapon. But I thought a Meister needed a weapon to fight with in order to be stronger. Death nodded and said, that's correct, as the bond between a Meister and a weapon is like that of a guitar and its amp. Alone, the guitar can't make much sound, but when an amp is added in the mix, it's louder than it was alone. Vid watched more as Death continued, Witch Hunter, the move Maka used, if a bit off, is a perfect example, as by using the soul resonance, she was able to have greater power. But Stein is different. He can fight without a weapon and we can all hear his sound. Vid looked amazed and said, impossible, if he had a weapon, they would be doomed. Death shook his head and said, I wouldn't say that, as it seems Naruto-kun has a few tricks of his own. That shield of his worked wonders and his sword has great cutting power. And to think, he's still holding back a great deal. Kid could only stare, his weapon partners sharing the expression. Patchwork Laboratory. Stein barely moved, shocking Tsubaki and Black Star, and he said, my, that was different. Soul looked shocked and said, what the hell, didn't it go through? Stein grinned and said, oh I felt it, but if I can get a sense of a person's wavelength, I can match it. Because of that, I don't even feel it, it's like the connection of a weapon and Meister. Vid looked shocked and said, he can do that. Seriously? Death nodded and said, he can. Observation and his flexible soul wavelength are what make Stein such a tough opponent. Though it seems Naruto is also a bit of a tough one. Thanks for watching my video. See you next time, till then sayonara.